to really reach the leadership of Hamas and to really reach all the hostages, Israel really needs to take the whole city of Rafah, and this might take some time.
First, though, people in eastern Rafah are getting text messages from the Israeli military telling them to move out. 100,000 have been told to leave. The Israeli military says it's planning an action of limited scope in the city. So what are the military options for Israel? We're joined now by Amir Avivi, a former IDF general and founder of the Israel Defence and Security Forum. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do we know about this offensive?
Well, I can say that as the IDF took the northern part of Gaza, Khan Yunis, the central camps, Hamas, with the leadership, with all the hostages, retreated to the last stronghold in Gaza, which is the city of Rafah. So this battle in Rafah is going to be the decisive battle where Israel is supposed to achieve the goals of war, to eradicate Hamas as a governmental and military entity. The last brigade of Hamas, 4 battalions, are in Rafah. They are prepared, they are fortified, and this will be a very, very intense battle. Israel is deploying 2 top divisions for this mission. And of course, Israel wants to remove all the citizens out of Rafah to a safety area, to move them through humanitarian corridors, and this is happening as we speak.
And where will they be moved to?
So they're moving to the area of Khan Yunis, where Israel finished operating, and also to the coastal area known as the Muasi. So in these areas, there are big city tents where people can move to. It's a safety zone, and this will enable Israel to operate freely and deal with Hamas and not have collateral damage.
What do we know about the time frame for this operation? Are we expecting it to start within days, weeks? How soon?
So I would expect it to start in maybe a week or 2. It really depends on how much time it will take to move the people. Israel might start to go into certain neighborhoods before that. But we must understand that to really reach the leadership of Hamas and to really reach all the hostages, Israel really needs to take the whole city of Rafah, and this might take some time.
But Amir, is there not a kind of problem there in terms of Israel saying it wants to both destroy Hamas and secure the release of hostages? But surely you can't do both, because Hamas won't release the hostages if they're under attack. You need to prioritise one, don't you?
Well, we have negotiated with Hamas 3 months. They are completely unwilling to release hostages. And all there is left is to release them militarily. Israel going in and really reaching our hostages and liberating them from Hamas. This is the only option left. Yes, it's more dangerous. It's more complicated. We know how these scenarios look. We have experience from the past. But really, we have to remember that there are many, many hostages that Hamas doesn't intend to release in any occasion. So really, if we want to reach all the hostages, we need to go in. There is an understanding that only military pressure can bring Hamas at the end of the day to be willing to release the hostages.
Just as we were coming on air this morning, we were getting the first reports that Israel were warning residents of Rafah to move out. We spoke then to Jotam Confino, foreign editor of Jewish News, who has now got more details. Jotam, morning again.
Good morning, Rosie.
What have you learned about what Israel are doing?
Well, first of all, we've heard for the first time from the foreign minister and from the defense minister saying that Israel was left with no option after Hamas once again rejected a ceasefire proposal. And because they were firing rockets from Rafah at the Kerem Shalom border crossing yesterday, killing 3 soldiers, this was the last drop really that made Israel go into Rafah. They haven't gone into the city yet. Troops are not inside Rafah yet, but they have begun evacuating around 100,000 people from the eastern part of the city, and they're trying to send them to a nearby tent camp, so to say, a humanitarian zone, near the city of Khan Yunis, where there'll be tents, there'll be water, food, and this is Israel's attempt to try and shield them from this war. But we all know that it's impossible, really, to secure them and to have them in places that will not be affected by the war. It's simply impossible.
So are they moving people out because they are nervous about their safety because of what happened over the weekend, which was Hamas firing on those Israeli soldiers right near a crossing where aid is delivered into, exactly the camps you've been talking about where people are living? Or is it because this sort of final sort of ground invasion we keep hearing about is imminent?
It's because the ground invasion is imminent, but it's also because it's becoming increasingly clear that Hamas does not want a ceasefire. Hamas wants a permanent ceasefire where Israel withdraws fully from Gaza, and Israel will not allow that. Hamas has not compromised whatsoever in the past couple of months. They've turned down every single ceasefire proposal. And as Antony Blinken, the United States Secretary of State, also said the other day, this is a very generous offer that's on the table right now. Now, Netanyahu also played a part in sabotaging the ceasefire, I would say, because during the negotiations where Israel was still waiting for an answer from Hamas, Netanyahu once again repeated that Israel will go into Rafah with or without a deal. Now, that's not something that's very helpful when you're trying to negotiate with an organization like Hamas. So he's also being blamed for sabotaging this. But nevertheless, Rafah was always going to be a place for Israel to enter because most of the hostages are in Rafah, and also because Hamas is still present in that city.
Do we have any idea of the further strategy on from, let's say, the next 24 hours?
No, we don't. And I think that it's very frustrating, both for journalists, but more, I would say, for the two peoples, the Israelis and the Palestinians, about this lack of strategy. We don't really know what's going to happen. And it seems like from the beginning of the war, Israel has failed to really formulate a proper strategy. We know that they want to get rid of Hamas. That's a given. But what exactly is going to happen? Who's going to take over? Who's going to rule Gaza? We still don't know that. We hear that Israel is in talks with some of the more moderate Arab regimes in the Middle East who would help rule Gaza in some sort of way. We don't have any confirmation from those states. But in terms of what's going to happen in Rafah, this will be a slow process because it will be a bloodbath if Israel invades Rafah, all of Rafah tomorrow, which is why they're doing this in phases.